The old adage that the market must climb a wall of worry, i.e. that the best bull runs take place to the accompaniment of a swelling chorus of doubters, seems to have taken on a broader application in the economy at large, where everything and anything which can be negatively construed currently calls forth a rancorous howl of "I told you so's" from the herd. The first major quibble was that the so-called soft data, which largely take the form of various opinion surveys, were running away from the hard, principally those compiled by the official number crunching agencies, and hence were not at all representative of the true state of affairs. Now the cry goes up that soft is again, in that most ugly of present usages, catching down to the hard, a move towards a greater consonance in which the downward tilt of what we have just been energetically deriding as the more insubstantial of the two sets of indicators is implicitly now seen to carry greater significance than the less dramatic course being simultaneously mapped out by its supposedly more reliable alternative. Now, given that many of even the more reputable and informative of the former set, such as the Institute of Purchasing Managers' long-standing business index, are a compilation of binary responses to the qualitative question, are things getting better or not? The inevitable mean reversion after any surge of improvement, whether real or imaginary, does not in fact signal an incipient commercial retrogression, but merely a less widespread sense that cash registers are ringing more rapidly, order books are filling with greater ease, and warehouse shelves are emptying any more quickly than they already have been doing of late. Thus a catch-down is nigh on inevitable, especially given the greater immediacy of the survey responses when compared with the slower, lagging pace of bureaucratic form filling on the part of the government statistical offices. Beyond this, of course, should some smattering of the hard data start to undershoot the Pavlovian expectations of the macromancers, as some are indeed currently doing, not only are such durations given great play in the media, but the fact that the commentariat's own straight-edged extrapolations from precedent have again been disabused only compounds the horror by swivelling the so-called surprise index of their combined guesstimates, surely the softest and most self-correcting of all numbers, into the red zone too. As if to cap it all, when published at the end of last week, the BEA's advanced estimate of US real GDP for the first quarter came in with a dull thump, printing an annualized 0.7%, which was its most tardy increase in 3 years. You see, the ghost of 37 has come to haunt us again. The Fed's modest tightening has severely weakened the economy, now unlikely to be boosted by those extravagant promises of radical reform made by the flailing Trump administration. Break out the sackcloth and the ashes. Get yourself ready for a nostalgic tour of the graveyard of finance capitalism, which was 2008's Lehman collapse. Now, given that the advanced estimate of GDP is typically subject to revisions equal in magnitude to the current headline number itself, and noting too that the BEA has itself expressed misgivings about how well its seasonal adjustments perform in the first quarter of the year, perhaps due to the increasing weight of business being conducted with those subject to the vagaries of the lunar calendar, we should really resist parsing this number too closely, for fear the comments will be outdated by the time the computer screensaver pops up. But this one was sufficiently rich in contrasts that a brief exegesis might be worthwhile. Firstly, led by a 16% plunge in car sales and compounded by an 8% decline in outlays on the gasoline with which to fill them up, the personal consumption measure came in at a bare 0.3%, the weakest reading since the dark days of 2009. Inventories grew at only a quarter the amount seen at the end of 2016, while overall government spending actually fell 1.7% annualized, something unparalleled in the past 3 years. Conversely, we're invited to believe that gross fixed investment shot up by more than 10%, the most in 5 years, and that within that total, spending on non-residential structures rocketed ahead by over 22%, a jump unheard of in the past half century or more. Who needs an infrastructure package if that's really the case? At this point, we invite the reader to join us in casting our minds back to the dim recesses of history, all the way back to, well, shall we say, last month? At that time, a common complaint was that consumers were overstretching their budgets, especially to buy autos, and that notwithstanding this, the car lots were filling up with unwanted inventory. Even before the new boys in the Beltway got to work building walls and the such like, government spending, and hence the associated deficits, were said to be veering out of control. And finally, it was generally a matter of concern that US businesses were too busy engineering their balance sheets to bother with any actual engineering, particularly of the capital investment kind, out in the real world. Insofar as it goes then, Q1's GDP estimate would suggest that all of those imbalances were in the process of being corrected, and also incidentally showed that the so-called final sales number, that net of inventory accumulation and decumulation, was biased towards capital formation and was running at more than twice the rate of the headline number at a much more respectable 1.6% annualized. So if these numbers are in any way representative of reality and survive the revisions, where's the beef?